Hello and welcome to Tigers by the Fire, a podcast out of Holy Cross High School about World War II discussions and stories. This is our fifth episode of the year, and this is Operation Reinhard. With me are Renzo Canton.
Hello.
And Joshua Atkins.
How you doing?
Obviously, anytime you talk about Holocaust subjects, it becomes something you want to take very seriously, and both of these guys did a lot of research, and they came up with a very focused look on the Holocaust, and so I'm going to let them explain why they chose to talk about Operation Reinhard.
Yeah, so Operation Reinhard was kind of what really started the concentration camps being made and implemented in Germany and its occupied territories. And it was something that not a lot of information was really readily available for. And when we were getting our research for the project, it was kind of hard to find it and dig it all up.
You know, Operation Reinhard is it's the beginning of the end, of the phase for like the Holocaust, right? It's the kind of like, it really served as the kind of like symbol of, hey, this is what the Nazi Party really wanted for the Holocaust, which was the extermination of the Jewish people in their occupied territories and other parts of Europe.
So as you guys did your research, obviously with something like Operation Reinhard, Reinhard Heydrich obviously came up. And so I know you guys were going to talk a little bit about him and then the Wannsee Conference, right? Do we want to start with that?
Yeah,
Let's go with the Wannsee Conference.
Yes, so the Wannsee Conference was on January 20th, 1942. And this is basically what gets the civilian government, the Nazi Party, German armed forces, and the SS to have the decision for the quote-unquote final solution to the Jewish question. And that's basically what they said in their words, to evacuate them. And at the time, people thought that people were just being shipped out into different places. But what was really happening was that they were being killed. And in the Wannsee Conference, this is when the heads of these parties and people who were high officials found out what was happening. And Heydrich basically said, we need this decision to be passed so we can get on with what we want to do. And you can either approve of this now or, face the consequences.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't realize, to your point, is how big governments are. Even the Nazi government, which is obviously totalitarian, but there's still a civilian government who doesn't always know everything that's going on. And so prior to 1941-42, most Germans, even Germans in the government, don't have an idea of mass executions. What they do have an idea of is deportations. They know mistreatments taking place. They do know people are being executed. But I think the sheer numbers are pretty much unaware of that. And then obviously with the final solution, which is the wholesale murdering of the Jewish population, it changes the ball game, if you will.
Yeah, let's talk about Reinhard Heydrich. So Reinhard Heydrich of the SS, or the German Schutzstaffel, or the stormtroopers, basically Hitler's kind of personal task force for everything that he wanted done, right? They were extremely loyal to him. And Reinhard Heydrich was an SS general who was personally tasked by Hermann Göring and Adolf Hitler with drafting the plans for the final solution. Everybody, as you well know, Hermann Göring and Adolf Hitler are kind of like the real figureheads of the Nazi Party and of like the German kind of Imperial Germany in Europe. While the operation was introduced, as we talked about in the fall of 1941, Operation Reinhard was not implemented until after the Wannsee Conference had concluded.
So I guess going to that, so the Wannsee Conference concludes, and the decision/dictation is the wholesale murdering of the Jewish population in Europe. And obviously by this point, there are already death camps that are around. Operation Reinhard deals with Jews in specific areas, correct?
Right. So Poland. We have three main camps in which Operation Reinhard, it kind of works through, and that's Treblinka, Belzec, and Sobibor. And these three camps are where Operation Reinhard takes place, right? We have the wholesale systemic murder of the Jews in Poland.
These camps were, what was devastating learning about it is these camps weren't really like labor camps. These were camps specifically designed for like the murder. The expected survival time was just about like an hour. In Treblinka, there was only 70 survivors. In Belzec, only 2 survivors. and in Sobibor 47. And the reason there was only so few was because the only reasons they were able to escape was because of prisoner uprisings. And that was basically it. But the exact number of how many people were murdered is pretty much unknown because the documents were destroyed by the Nazis who were overrunning the camps. But the most accepted number is about 1.4 million were murdered in these three camps.
And what these statistics show you is that almost as soon as you got to this camp, they were basically kind of like escorting you to your death. Like as soon as you got to the camp, there was no like really positioning them for long-term labor or just kind of like stay at the camps. And that's why there's so few survivors. As soon as you got to the camp, they were, kind of gathering you towards the showers, telling you to, strip, and we have to clean you guys before we send you out east, which was, an act of deception, which you can clearly see in all of the Nazi Party, right? The art of deception is very crucial to the Nazi Party and what they do.
Yeah, I think to that point, a lot of people don't always realize how many camps there were. And obviously in this, we're talking about camps other than Auschwitz. Auschwitz is the one that I feel like almost everyone knows about.
Yeah.
And then here you hear about other death camps. And there's also different types of camps that take place. And what we're talking about is not people being forced into labor. This is people who are solely getting shipped across for execution.
Like these are death factories.
Yeah.
These are death factories that their sole purpose is to exterminate and remove Jewish people from the face of the earth.
And I know as you do research on that, it can be very difficult to look at because the survivors' tales are usually really heart-wrenching, as are the stories that you hear, from Nuremberg and things to that nature. But as y'all did research, what was the hardest part to find in this, or at least the hardest part to research as you were doing it?
Like what made us most uneasy?
No, I mean just in general,
oh.
like what was hard to come up with?
Really kind of finding what the layout of the camps were, because the blueprints, like the official blueprints, they were all destroyed. So the maps that are all made are based off of the first-hand accounts. But what we were able to find was that the camps were divided into these three areas, and it was an administration area, a reception area, and then an extermination area. And the administration area was basically a living sector for German overseers, Treblinka guards, and prisoners. And these guards were recruits out of POW camps for Red Army soldiers captured in Operation Barbarossa. The reception area was where the trains would come in and the people would have to get undressed and all of their visible belongings were taken away and then sorted later. And then the extermination area was fenced off on both sides by usually by tree branches that were wrapped up in barbed wire, and you couldn't see in or out of it. And they were driven through this tube by guards usually that had a dogs with them, and then led into the gas chambers and brought into mass graves after they were dead.
Yeah, so in these, you're talking mass graves as opposed to crematoriums?
Yeah.
Okay.
They did everything in their ability to kind of remove the evidence that kind of prove what these camps were. And that's what we found. How the camp's doing today. Well, we found that there were mass graves, which just kind of showed the purpose of the camps. Mm-hmm. We also found aerial views that provided information regarding they were consumed with grass, sand, and trees. Now they have small memorials with small museums.
Yeah, and I think it was a weird balance after the wars to figure out what do you do with these camps. Do you just destroy them because they're these horrible testaments to the human ability to murder, or do you keep them up so you can show people what they were? Like Auschwitz has been kept up a lot, but virtually every other one of them has been torn down. So I think it's an interesting kind of question. So as far as the camps and everything else in this whole operation, you guys alluded to the secrecy of it all, right? So they're burying people in mass graves. Yep. Eventually, they're going to dig up a lot of these mass graves too, and they end up piling bodies toward the end of the war. Why do you think they're doing that? Why are they destroying the bodies even after they're dead.
Well, the mindset of the Nazi Party was like, we don't want anything of the Jewish community except for like their cemeteries. Like that was their belief. And so when they realized like this isn't going to be able to work, they just wanted to be able to erase everything they could, I feel. And like,
it's almost like a fail. It's almost like a failure in their part. Like they couldn't kill, all of the Jews, like in the world, or even the ones that they had possession of. And so it was just kind of say like wipe this failure off the face of the earth so that no one knows about it. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I mean, and we talked about this too, like the whole end goal of the Holocaust too is within a generation, no one ever knows that this happened or that these people were even here. So I think that's one of the sicker motivational points. All right, so what do we have next?
And we have some more statistics regarding like the outcome. At Treblinka, we have at least 713,555 people dead. Belzec, at least 434,508 people dead, and at Sobibor, at least 170,165 people dead. It's really like you look at these statistics, and a lot of people gloss over these large numbers because you really can't fathom like these are hundreds of thousands of people that are just murdered within the span of like months to years. And these figures are generally accepted. Some numbers will go down a few hundred thousand, some up, but the generally accepted number of the whole event is 1.7 million.
And that's just Operation Reinhard?
Yes, that's just Operation Reinhard. There may be counting disputes, especially because you're exterminating the bodies, you're cremating them, so there's absolutely no record besides firsthand accounts of people who survived. And as we talked about, there's so little that survived. So that's even harder.
And to put it in perspective for anybody listening, that's more than all the deaths in U.S. wars combined. 1.7 million. I mean, the United States, 600,000 in the Civil War, 400,000 in World War II. And then after that, it's just a little lesser in each war. Doesn't add up to that. And so that puts in perspective. Every war the United States has ever fought doesn't add up to this one operation out of the Holocaust, which, as we know, eventually kills around 10 million. So I know we talked a little bit about what went on when people got to the camp. So if we highlight that again, I guess because obviously there are trained networks that are training people into all of these places.
Yep. So the first thing that happened was the victims were gathered from ghettos and other areas in which Jewish people were collected from Poland, and they were transported to the three respective camps, Treblinka, Belzec, and Sobibor, told to leave their luggage on the train. They were marched to the reception area, given a speech by a Nazi telling them that they were going to be sent further east for work, and then they were going to be able to stay with their families. This was indeed, a lie. This is all a part of their deception, trying to calm the nerves of the Jewish people, because if they were really told that, hey, you guys are about to be exterminated, a short period of time, then there would have been panic and uprisings right then and there. The second thing that happened was these new arrivals were separated into groups, men, women, children. In Sobibor, men dressed outside and women were inside. They were told to leave their clothes where they could find them. The first group of men were driven into the tube, was covered with tree branches so you could not see in and out of it, guarded by soldiers with dogs. Then women and children followed after, having their hair cut off. While the men and women were being killed, so-called ramp Jews cleaned out the boxcars and took out dead bodies or luggage. The Nazis took luggage, clothing, valuables, anything that they could find from the Jewish bodies, and that would be shipped to Germany.
Yeah, a lot of the survivors end up being workers who end up having to either clear out the cars or clear out the chambers.
Hired by the Nazi.
Essentially that's your living, so you're going to do this. And then, I can't think of a worse way to exist than
Escorting your brothers to their deaths.
Oh, absolutely. Almost. Just human beings in general. And then, obviously, I know they check they usually do it before, but they're going to check mouths for fillings because they'll take out gold fillings. They obviously sort through all of the luggage and everything that they bring with them as well.
And this, one of these last kind of points that we found was like when one group disappeared into the tube, the empty boxcars were pushed out and the next full were rolled in. This was repeated until the entire transport was exterminated. And this really hit me very deeply because it's just like just rolled in, like they're just rolled in, exterminated, rolled in, and it's really just it's really sickening that it's just like batches of people that they're just sending to their deaths. It's terrible.
And that's why when we talk about this in class, and I know we've had, actually between two of you, you've had me in class pretty much half your high school career. Whenever we've talked about the Holocaust, we talk about that. It's the most inhumane thing that you can get of. And the reason it's different from so many other cases, because there have been horrible cases of genocide for, thousands of years. It's systematic. It's
mechanized.
It's the assembly line, right? The assembly line takes away the skilled laborer. This is taking away any personalization of this. It's wholesale murder for as quickly and as cheaply as they can do it. And it makes it pretty horrible. And I know we watched the movie Conspiracy, which was about the Wannsee Conference, and so that kind of shed light on the planning of it, which you saw come out in your research.
And this was the implementation.
Correct. We'll watch Schindler's List in the next couple of weeks, and that'll kind of showcase some of this stuff too, because they definitely highlight that. Renzo, what about you? How did the research of this kind of, how did it make you feel as you were researching all this stuff?
What was kind of heartbreaking about it is like these people had their culture like truly demonized by the Nazi Party, and like they were now seen as like the enemy, and like now it's like their fault for Germany's downfall, and they were made out to be something that they weren't, and like now they're having their entire history destroyed. And it's like these camps, like there's like a rhythm to it. It's like a factory. Like they're just like trying to do something as efficiently and as cheaply as possible. And like when these Jewish people have the jobs, there's like so many different jobs around the camps. It's like, honestly, like it was kind of baffling to me.
And we found that a majority of the prisoners who were employed at these death camps were employed with work directly related to the extermination. And this kind of goes along with something that we talked about earlier, and that was like, the like teachers and like not even before like the wholesale like systematic extermination, it was the complicit like people who were involved, who were not Nazi Party members, like teachers and neighbors and people that just kind of sold out their Jewish neighbors to be taken to these death camps. And there were tons of people involved.
Yeah, and as we've talked about in class, there's just so many people, it's hard to measure. But, I mean, to your point, in the labor camps, they set the women up, the women who were in prison, but they set up women teachers for the kids. And they teach them different songs and things like that, and they'll march them around the camp. And it seems all like nice until...
Yeah, that's what we had a point about that.
Yeah.
We had... it said, when giving Jewish people jobs, one group worked as service prisoners at the camps. Jobs range from cooks, bakers, cleaning staff, washerwomen, ironers, knitters, seamstresses, shoemakers, tailors, carpenters. Pharmacists, hairdressers. There's a whole bunch of jobs that kind of like almost tried to, calm, like the art of deception, right? Calming down the Jewish people to say, hey guys, like, life isn't, look how life is. Like you have these jobs and trying to mimic normal life. That art of deception.
And one of the things with the kids, they'll play those same music and those same songs as they march them onto trains and march them through gas chambers, and
just kind of like that unconscious kind of like conditioning.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think whenever you do research on the Holocaust, and I commend you guys for choosing a topic like this so early in the year too, there's no like silver lining or happy story. Even the people who survive, they don't survive unscathed. They all have wounds that don't ever heal. And so you never really, I mean, there are stories obviously in war that you can read about and learn about that end up being really nice and positive, and the Holocaust is never one of them.
This is cold. This is
It's tragic. That's what it is. So do you guys have anything else before we close out?
No, I think we've covered everything that we found.
Renzo?
One thing I wanted to note was like the people involved in these camps and in the Nazi uprising, like they were not psychologically manipulated in this movement. Like this was all like of their choosing, and at any point like they could have chosen to make the choice to not do this. And like in some interviews we've watched in class, like people have like even said like, you know, this was wrong, and like we knew this was wrong, but it was just what people were doing. And it just kind of goes to show like with just a few people with that mob mentality, like, you know, like Heydrich can do when they have this influence and people don't stand up to make a difference.
Yeah, and to that point too, these camps and working at these camps, you don't just get assigned to them. I mean, that's just something that is applied for. And the German army, as far as, you know, when you really look at research, they're not penalizing people for refusing to do executions. I mean, these are tasks that these people get into. And yeah, is there indoctrination at play and all that other shit? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you know, these people have been indoctrinated their entire lives. Hitler Youth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Hitler Youth, essentially, from 1933, and now running the camps in 44 and 45. So, very good job, guys. I know this is a difficult topic to kind of do. If y'all are together next time, we'll enjoy ourselves again. So this was Tigers by the Fire. Thank y'all for listening.